Blood trickled down Michael Foster's arm as he knelt before the massive African lion, its paw caught in a tangle of barbed wire at the sanctuary fence. The lion's amber eyes locked with his, a mixture of pain and primal ferocity that made everyone else back away. Behind him, voices shouted for him to retreat. "Foster, back away now. That's a direct order." The sanctuary director's voice cracked with tension. Michael's hands trembled as he adjusted his grip on the wire cutters. The lion's breath was hot against his skin. "I can't just leave him like this, Tom. He's suffering." The magnificent creature, a fully grown male they called Tao, had caught his front paw in damaged fence at the South African Wildlife Sanctuary. The barbed wire had twisted around his leg, digging deeper with every attempt to pull free. Blood matted the golden fur, and swelling had already begun. Michael had worked at the Kalahari Wildlife Preserve for 7 years, but he'd never been this close to one of the lions without barriers. Nobody had. That was the protocol that kept people alive. But when he'd heard about Tao's situation, something compelled him to act before the veterinary team could arrive with tranquilizers. "Michael, please." It was Lisa's voice, the head veterinarian. "The tranquilizer will be ready in 5 minutes. This isn't safe." But Michael recognized the signs. Tao's breathing was becoming labored, his massive chest heaving. The combination of stress, heat, and pain could send the lion into shock. 5 minutes might be too long. His paws almost free. "Just keep everyone back." Michael's words were barely above a whisper as he carefully snipped at another strand of wire. Time seemed to slow as he worked. Tao growled again, softer this time, his massive head lowering as if in resignation. Michael understood Tao's history better than most. The lion had been rescued 3 years earlier from a private collection, where he'd been kept in a cage barely large enough to turn around. Michael had been part of the team that helped rehabilitate him, watching from a distance as Tao regained his strength. Perhaps that was why he couldn't stand by now. Another strand of wire gave way. Tao flinched, pulling his paw back slightly, but it was still caught, driving the remaining barbs deeper. A pained sound escaped the lion's throat. "Almost there, buddy. Just a little more," Michael murmured. The lion's eyes never left his face. There was intelligence there, awareness that made Michael's heart race. With careful precision, Michael cut through the final strands of wire. As he did, he noticed the deepest barb had penetrated the pad of Tao's paw. It would need to be removed, but first he needed to create space between them. "That's it. You're free now." Michael slowly set down the wire cutters and began to ease backward. But as he moved, Tao suddenly shifted forward. Michael froze. The lion's face was now inches from his own. Someone behind him gasped. He heard a tranquilizer gun being readied. "Don't shoot," Michael called out. "Let him make the first move." His heart hammered as Tao leaned even closer. Then, almost imperceptibly, Tao lowered his massive head. For one surreal moment, the top of the lion's mane brushed against Michael's shoulder, not aggressively, but with gentle acknowledgement. Then Tao stepped backward, his injured paw held off the ground, and turned away. With measured steps, the lion walked back toward the interior of his enclosure and disappeared into the tall grass. The silence that followed was absolute. Michael remained kneeling, trembling with adrenaline, staring at the empty space where Tao had been. "Are you completely out of your mind?" Tom's face was red with fury and relief. "He could have taken your head off." Michael couldn't explain what had just happened. Not just the lion walking away, but that moment of connection that defied explanation. "We need to treat his paw," Michael finally managed. "There's still a barb embedded in it." Sarah Chen, the wildlife photographer documenting the preserve, approached with her camera. "I got it all," she said quietly. "Every second." What Michael didn't know then was that this encounter would change everything. Over the next 2 weeks, as Tao recovered and Michael served his probation for violating safety protocols, something remarkable unfolded. Each morning, Michael visited the medical enclosure. Each day, Tao acknowledged his presence in ways that defied conventional understanding, approaching the barrier when Michael appeared, maintaining eye contact, making unusual chuffing sounds that signaled recognition. Sarah's photographs had gone viral, appearing in major publications worldwide and sparking intense debate among conservationists. The preserve suddenly found itself in the spotlight, with donations and research proposals pouring in. Dr. Helena Wright from the University of Cape Town reviewed all the footage. "What we're seeing is unquestionably significant," she said. "This level of cross-species recognition and apparent trust is unprecedented in documented research." When it came time for Tao to return to his territory, Michael was present despite the risks. The lion emerged from the transport cage, scenting the air. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Tao turned not toward his territory, but directly toward Michael's vehicle 50 meters away. "He can't possibly know you're in there," Dr. Wright's voice came through the radio. "The windows are tinted." Yet Tao moved with purpose, stopping halfway, sitting on his haunches, his gaze fixed on the vehicle. "I'm going out," Michael said suddenly. "Absolutely not," Tom's voice cracked with alarm. "That is a direct order." But Michael was already moving. He removed the radio and stepped out into the morning air. Tao remained where he was, watching, his tail sweeping slowly across the ground. Michael took several steps forward, then stopped, allowing Tao to determine what happened next. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Tao rose and began walking toward Michael, not charging, simply approaching with measured steps. Michael remained still, every instinct telling him to be ready to retreat, but something else held him there, that inexplicable sense of connection. Tao stopped less than 10 feet away. Then he lowered himself to the ground, his massive head level with Michael's chest, his amber eyes never leaving Michael's face. "Thank you for trusting me," Michael said softly, "and for letting me help you." Tao made that same chuffing sound. Then, in a gesture that would soon be seen around the world, the lion stretched his neck forward and briefly pressed his forehead against Michael's leg before stepping back. The touch lasted only seconds, but its significance was profound. Not aggression, but acknowledgement, perhaps even gratitude. Then, with one final look, Tao turned and walked with unhurried dignity toward his territory, his mane catching the golden light of the rising sun. "Did that just happen?" Tom's voice finally came through someone's radio, hushed with disbelief. "It did," Lisa confirmed, her scientific reserve abandoned. "And we have it documented from every angle." The implications unfolded over the following months. Sarah's photographs became the centerpiece of a groundbreaking study on lion cognition. Dr. Wright's preliminary paper challenged long-held assumptions about how predators perceive and interact with humans. But perhaps the most remarkable outcome was the ongoing relationship with Tao. During regular monitoring, Michael observed that Tao would often approach the research vehicle, maintaining respectful distance, but clearly acknowledging his presence. On one memorable occasion 3 months later, Tao led his pride to a successful hunt, then deliberately dragged a portion of the kill to within viewing distance of the observation post where Michael was stationed. "It's like he's showing you he's okay," Sarah suggested. "Maybe," Michael replied, still cautious. But in his heart, he knew there was more to it. Something that transcended usual categories of human-animal interaction, mutual recognition between two different species of the other's autonomy, intelligence, and worth. 6 months after the incident, Michael stood at the observation platform watching as Tao patrolled his territory, magnificent and fully recovered. The lion paused, then turned to look directly at Michael. For a moment, their gazes locked across the distance, that same inexplicable connection humming between them. "They said you'd die helping him," Sarah commented quietly, but instead, something unthinkable happened. "Not unthinkable," Michael corrected her gently, watching as Tao continued on his way. "Just previously unimagined. There's a difference," Sarah smiled. "There certainly is, and that difference has changed everything." As the sun began to set over the preserve, Michael reflected on how a single moment of connection had opened a new chapter in understanding the complex, intelligent creatures with whom we share this planet. The warning that he would die helping the lion had proven false. Instead, something far more remarkable had occurred. A bridge had been built between two worlds, and both were richer for it. In the distance, Tao's roar echoed across the darkening landscape, powerful, wild, and free. But to Michael's ears, there was something else in it now. Recognition, acknowledgement, perhaps even gratitude. The unthinkable had become reality, challenging our understanding of the boundaries between human and animal consciousness. and suggesting those boundaries might be more permeable than we'd ever imagined. And in that recognition lay hope, not just for Tao and Michael, but for all those working to preserve these magnificent creatures. For if such understanding could develop between man and lion, what other connections might be possible? What other bridges might be built if only we were brave enough to try? As night fell over the Kalahari Wildlife Preserve, that question hung in the air like a promise, unanswered, but full of possibility.